Good evening. Welcome to the maiden edition of the HHS Corner on the Ambazonia Communication Network, ACN TV. The program of today shall be split into two parts. In the first half, as usual, the AGOVC HHS shall present the list of all the atrocities committed by Cameroun and Ambazonia for the months of February and March. The second segment will be more interactive. I will be joined by the AGOVC Deputy Secretary for Human Rights and Humanitarian Services, who is with the German mission. We will get him introduced and we will talk about other projects that the AGOVC HHS department has for this 2024. So let's get started. Cameroon's war crimes in Ambazonia. What these guys did in February and March is heartbreaking. At the beginning of 2024, the Department for Human Rights and Humanitarian Services of the Ambazonia Governing Council, the AGOVC, outlined a series of critical initiatives. Central to our mission is the acknowledgement of the alarming absence of a centralized repository documenting the egregious war crimes perpetrated by Cameroun in Ambazonia. In response, the AGOVC, my department, has undertaken a pivotal project, the development of a war crimes catalog, meticulously chronicling Cameroun's atrocities and genocide in Ambazonia. These documented crimes are now accessible on the official AGOVC website at www.agovc.org. Again, the website is www.agovc.org. It is important to also note that this site remains an ongoing effort with continuous refinement and thorough review. As part of our department's mandate, it is our solemn duty to present to you and to bring to your forefront and to bring to the forefront of the international community a summary of Cameroon's war crimes in Ambazonia during the months of February and March. The crimes perpetrated by Cameroon occupation forces in Ambazonia are punitive, systemic, and systematic in nature. In a moment, I will begin listing out a compilation which offers insight into the documented war crimes committed in February and in March 2024. February 7, 2024, in Kikaikom Bui, northern Ambazonia, 4 innocent Ambazonian civilians fell victim to the brutal onslaught unleashed by the Cameroon occupation forces. This callous and reprehensible act transpired following skirmishes between the Ambazonia Defense Forces, the ADF, and elements of Cameroon occupation forces in Kikaikom Bui. The deliberate targeting of civilians by Cameroon occupation forces represents a flagrant violation of international humanitarian law, egregiously contravening the fundamental tenets enshrined within the Geneva Conventions. Such egregious actions during armed conflict are expressly prohibited under the conventions, all the conventions, constituting a clear breach of international law. February 13, 2024, in Ikata village, Moyuka, Fako state of southern Ambazonia, the Cameroon occupation forces launched a ruthless assault on the civilian population, operating under a mandate akin to a directive for indiscriminate violence. They brazenly opened fire on civilians within civilian inhabited areas with instructions to shoot to kill any male. This brutal incursion resulted in the tragic deaths of 4 innocent young males, while several others sustained grievous injuries. Furthermore, tens of individuals were forcibly abducted and are currently being unlawfully detained, subject to the demand for ransom before their release. Such wanton acts of violence, coupled with unlawful detention and extortion, constitute egregious violations of international humanitarian law, including the principles outlined in the Geneva Convention. Number 3, Victoria, Fako State, Southern Ambazonia, March 3rd, 2024. An unidentified commercial motorbike rider fell victim to a grave violation of human rights at the hands of elements within the Cameroun occupation forces operating in the Victoria, Southern Ambazonia. Shockingly, he was abducted and subsequently murdered without any discernible justification. Eyewitnesses allege that the rider's refusal to pay a bribe may have incited this senseless act of violence. This egregious incident potentially breaches several international laws, including, among others, number 1, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The abduction and extrajudicial killing of the motorbike rider violate his inherent right to life as enshrined in Article 3 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Another aspect of international law that was breached, the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. The right to life, liberty, and security of persons guaranteed under Article 6 of the Convention has been blatantly disregarded through the abduction and murder of this motorbike rider. Another law that was breached, the Geneva Convention, the deliberate targeting and killing of civilians, including commercial motorbike riders by occupying forces in Ambazonia, constitute violations of the principles of distinction and proportionality outlined in the Geneva Conventions. This reprehensible act underscores the urgent need for accountability and for justice for victims of human rights abuses, not only for that bike rider, but for every other abuses in Ambazonia. Number 4, in Aginicom, Bafut, Mezam State, Northern Ambazonia, on March 11th, 2024, Cameroon occupation forces perpetrated a heinous assault on the civilian population, demonstrating utter disregard for human dignity and rights. Invading the village, they ruthlessly targeted elderly women within their homes, subjecting them to brutal beatings with the intent to inflict harm. These abhorrent actions were motivated solely by the fact that these women had given birth to children involved in the resistance against Cameroon occupation of Ambazonia. Additionally, which is really very painful, the occupation soldiers engaged in wanton destruction, setting numerous homes ablaze and looting shops before reducing them to rubble. Amidst this chaos, an innocent civilian lost his life, succumbing to the torture, trauma, and stress inflicted upon him by the occupation forces. Such reprehensible conduct constitutes egregious violations of international law, including the Geneva Convention and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Warning. And in Kumba, Meme State, Southern Ambazonia, on March 15, 2024, Cameroon occupation forces perpetrated a harrowing act of abduction and torture against a good Samaritan named Abia Franklin, demonstrating unwavering passion and concern for the well-being of fellow Ambazonians that are internally displaced within Kumba. Franklin mobilized his community to provide essential supplies, including water, to those in need. However, a blatant display of impunity, Cameroon occupation forces, in collision with local agents, falsely implicated Franklin in fabricated charges. Heinous acts of abduction and torture ensued, as Franklin was mercilessly subjected to days of agonizing torment in an undisclosed location, deprived of food and water. His release was ultimately secured only upon the payment of a ransom equivalent to under $40. Such barbaric acts, perpetrated with impunity, flagrantly violate international law, including the prohibition against torture and the rights enshrined in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And hey, I thought that was the last. There's actually a sixth. On March 27, 2024 in Bali, northern Ambazonia, Cameroon occupation forces executed a chilling abduction and extrajudicial killing, epitomizing their utter disregard for human life and dignity, intercepting 2 civilian males, including one who was physically disabled. The occupation forces callously abducted them, forcibly removing them from their communities. Tragically, their lifeless bodies were discovered dumped by the roadside a day later, bearing signs of brutal execution. Their hands had been bound, their faces covered, and they had been mercilessly murdered in cold blood. This egregious act of violence constitutes grave violation of international humanitarian law, specifically breaching the fundamental principles of the Geneva Conventions pertaining to the protection of civilians in times of conflict, as well as the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Heart-wrenching. The harrowing accounts presented today underscore the urgent need for accountability and for justice in Ambazonia. The documented war crimes committed by the Cameroon occupation forces represent a flagrant violation of international law, including inter alia, Geneva Conventions, and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The heinous acts of violence, extrajudicial killings, and arbitrary detentions inflicted upon innocent civilians demand condemnation from the international community that has been very busy with Israel. It is imperative that these perpetrators of these atrocities are held accountable for their actions and that mechanisms for justice and redress are established. The Ambazonia Governing Council remains steadfast in its commitment to exposing these grave violations, seeking justice for the victims, and working towards a future where human rights are respected and protected for all the people that live within the Ambazonian territory. The world must not turn a blind eye to the suffering of the people of Ambazonia. Rather, we must stand in solidarity with them and demand an end to the cycle of violence and impunity. Together, let us work towards a brighter and more just future for the Ambazonian people. That does it for the first segment of this program. Now, let's move on to the next part of the program. Like I said before, I have with me the HHS deputy who is with the German mission, Mr. William Niba. You're welcome to this program.
Thank you, Secretary. I'm very delighted and pleased to be with you in this program and the same platform this evening. And the illustration of the war crime perpetrated by the La République du Cameroun soldiers of occupation, they are very alarming. And actually, from what you have just highlighted, it is very clear that these people really need to be brought down to accountability, and we really need to stand and fight for our rights. These are some of the things we have been saying about the gruesome, the brutality of the French occupational soldiers in Ambaland, because they have been violating a lot of human rights, violating a lot of principles and they have been harassing people, making people to live in their own land as prisoners, as slaves. So actually, as we are pressing up hard, we know we have a lot of strategies, we have a lot of objective to realize, and this department is there to make sure that we accomplish some of these objectives. We project to the world what these French Cameroon soldiers are doing in Ambaland, the violation of international laws and the crimes they are committed there, because it is hidden to most countries. From most countries, I was one time talking with some one expert here in Germany. We discussed about the war that is going on in the Ambaland, and he brought out some articles. I realized that these articles were published in 2016 on human rights abuses, and actually the recent gruesome killing, the human rights abuses, the present wars are not there. So it was really necessary for us to update the archive on these human rights abuses so that we channel them to some of these international bodies to actually see what is going on in this region of Cameroon. Because
without cutting you short, Mr. Niba, wait a minute. So you mean an organization in Germany showed you an archive of atrocities committed by Cameroon in Ambazonia, and to the best of your knowledge, it needs so much to be desired. It was just 2016 stuff.
Yeah, actually, that has been the case. Even the foreign ministry here in Germany, they are based also, they claim most of this archive right from 2016. I went through some documentation, even in the court, and some of the documentation from my legal expert friend. I realized the documents there, the archives are very old, and
which means that the current undertaking by the Ambazonia Governing Council to have a central repository of these war crimes that will in the future, now and in the future, hold Cameroon accountable for their crimes. So do you mean that this is going to be a great project by the department?
Actually, that is really a great project, because just as I was saying, I sent the link on the website to this my legal friend, and he visited it, and he was really, really impressed with the great work we have done. And he was shocked about the things that are going on, actually, the human rights abuses that are not documented anywhere. They are not projected in any media forum across the world. So he was really, really shocked. He told me he's going to document them and send them to the German foreign ministry department, so that they should be aware of these things that are happening. So we envisage equally to not only Germany, other nations across Europe, Belgium and other France, Luxembourg, Norway. We envisage to channel this report to some of these external relations department in these countries, so that they'll be able to update their archive and to know what is actually going on presently in the in ground zero, that is Ambaland, because it is not documented, it is not mentioned in most international media. It's a silent war going on there. For me, it's a genocide, not mentioned anywhere. So these are some of the ways we can project some of these atrocities, bringing onto the awareness of the world and some of these human rights experts across the world to actually see what is actually going on.
So, you mentioned in some side talk before that this catalog was projected in court. Can you elaborate on that? What happened?
Yeah, actually,
why were you in court? Why was that link projected? What happened?
Yeah, actually, I was in
for
court.
For the purpose of viewers.
Actually, I was in the German court because since I ran away from Cameroon because of persecution, because I've been speaking for the right of the Ambazonian, I've been exposing a lot of human rights abuses and the barbaric nature of this French occupation soldiers through my Facebook page and through different social media platforms. So they came after me, so I was forced to flee away from Cameroon. So I came here seeking for international protection. So I applied for that, and I was my case was channeled to the court. So I went to the court, and then it was from there I also discovered the archive in the courts. They are very, very old documents. And as a result of this new archive that we have developed in this department, the court printed out some of these documents to put in the archive and a notice board concerning Cameroon, because they had limited documentation. The judge himself told me they have limited documentation based on that, because most of the international organizations working there, like Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International, at times they are limited to get down into ground zero to gather some of these first-hand evidences because of the risk that is there. They can't go there because of the nature of the war. But thanks to our ground informant, we obtained some of this information, first-hand evidences, and so the judge was very happy in the court that they are going to add it to the archive concerning Cameroon, and it will help him in subsequent cases in the future to make better decisions, not based on old archive, but on reality on what is happening presently. So it was projected in the court during my case file, and when the judge saw it, the interpreter that was beside me, she saw the gruesome killing of men, the atrocities. She just bent her head down, and I looked at her, tears were coming out from her eyes. She asked me, "This is actually what is going on?" I said, "Yeah, but it's hidden from the world." That is the reality of it. There was silence in the court for about 3 minutes because of the projection, and at one point, the judge asked that they should stop the projection, that the images are not good to be seen.
Thank you for that experience. Now, I want us to look at the what program that the AGOC, HHS, all the different programs that we have for this department. But before we come to that, who is William Niba in terms of, because you have your own challenges in life, which happened to you because of mistakes of La République du Cameroun, right? So can you tell the Ambazonian people who William Niba is and why he decided to join the Department for Human Rights and Humanitarian Services of the Ambazonia Governing Council?
Yeah, actually, I'm William Niba. I hail from the Ambazonia region of Cameroon. I was born there. I schooled most my secondary schools, high school in the Ambazonia region. I did university in the French Cameroon region. So I experienced first-hand discrimination, segregation. It was really horrible. We were just there. I was there like a second-class citizen living in my own country because of the segregation and discrimination. People will insult you even in classroom, but it's like a dominion. They are like superior citizens more than us. So not because of that, I decided to engage onto a fight that is by drawing the awareness of people and to sensitize the population on the equality, on the citizenship that we had there before. So I did all this, but it was not working. I even joined an association for disabled people, ASLO, where we try to bring this equality beforehand. We pushed this agenda across, but the government came at one time, interrupted this association. Even the assistants that we work for, that were coming from foreign land to assist physically challenged person that were there in this La République du Cameroun sector of Cameroon, the government caught this assistant and stopped the consignment that was sent at the ship port of Douala, and they were asking for money. So we stepped out to protest against this. I was really shocked to realize that the military came out with water cannon and they were spraying on blind people, cripples, people who cannot walk. The scene was horrible. From that day, I realized that these guys, they have no pity, no iota of mercy for anybody. So there was one time they launched an entrance into the public sector. So they gave some preference to disabled people. So after that, they discovered that most of the disabled people who were supposed to get into these public services, the numbers were still down. So they relaunched the second phase. So at this time, I realized from the list, the numbers of Anglophone disabled people there were just, I think, one person. And they needed about 300. So I protested about this. I went right up to the governor's office. I drew his attention about that we need to look up on this list for the Ambazonians also to be included. But they told me, yeah, they're going to look into it. And later on, the final list came out. Our names were still not there. So I realized that actually we are not meant to be part of this part of the country. So we have to leave. And for me, I started fighting and challenging it. But I realized that to obtain this objective there was very difficult because Every time you try to do that, they will suppress you. They say this is not a political organization. Your activities are being politicized. So because of that, they'll arrest you, threaten you. So I was forced to flee out of the country so that I can have a free platform to express some of these views. But my experience there was horrible. It was really horrible as somebody who is sitting on a wheelchair.
So you said as somebody who is sitting on a wheelchair, were you actually born that way?
No, actually, I was okay. At the age of 3, I got a problem with the poliomyelitis. But actually, I'm discovering what really happened because I'm doing some investigation actually right now. And from all indications, since I arrived to Germany, I discovered that what happened to us, the injection that were given to us, that were tried in that English section or the Amazonian section, it was like a compromise from the La République du Cameroun government with this company called Nordox to come and test their vaccine. So we were victim of that. So when I came to Germany, a lawyer schooled me on that and asked me about the situation. When I mentioned, he said, yes, I'm aware of that story. I know of it and I'm following it keenly because if you can obtain some documents from the medical sector of Cameroun, from the hospital where it was done, we can trace right onto the root and get to this company. But for me, that whole exercise was politicized. It was not like a medical free venture. That was politicized. They came and tested a vaccine on us, so we were victims. In my community, 10 of us were paralyzed. So that was not a coincidence.
So wait a minute. What you're saying is that you were born okay?
Yeah.
Age of 3, La République, through a certain company called Nordox, did polio vaccines to test in Ambazonia, to test on humans like guinea pigs. And you were a victim to that. So that explains the reason why today you're on a wheelchair.
Exactly.
Did I get that right?
Yeah. Exactly. That is the situation. And actually, I am working right now to see how we can, because the good thing is that this company is still existing. So we are working actually to see how we can raise up a case file for this situation. Because some people say it's coincidence. It's not a coincidence because in our community, 10 of us were paralyzed. That for me is not a coincidence. It therefore means there was a problem with that medication. This is very clear.
Absolutely. Okay, so thank you very much indeed for that brief story of yours, Mr. Deputy HHS. Now, at the Ambazonian people, I know you've been on Man Nigela's program before. Now the Ambazonian people know exactly, the minds behind the HHS department of the Ambazonia Governing Council. Let's talk a little bit about the projects, about 2024 projects that we have for this year. You mentioned earlier about some projects that you wanted to, participate in Nigeria. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, actually in Nigeria, because in our previous meeting that we had early this year for this department to assess the work being done and to make some projections, we realized that the humanitarian human rights services or department is all that not well pronounced. Why? Because it is good we focus on the war side. While focusing on the war side, this is an organization, EGOV-C. There are various arms under. We should not be only on the side of defense and forget the other arms, because we have actually people who are down there in need. Like we have prisoners of war who are reaching on to us every day. They have needs, they need food, they need mattress. Some are wounded, they need medical intervention. So this department, most of the time, we don't have any tangible funds or cover that we are keeping. So we depend from the various missions to support most of these projects that we are doing. Like in Nigeria, we have this department offer scholarship for some students and equally some internally displaced person in Cameroun to study IT with one strong institute in the US. Those are the things we have been doing on the ground. And we equally raise up our budget to empower some of these refugees in Nigeria from Amberland to start micro projects that they can be doing on their own. Some have already started, like raising small poultry farms, doing small micro businesses with an effort that when they are tomorrow, when they are established, they will be able to raise up another person. So these are the projects we have been doing on the ground. But I can say that most of the time we are unable to realize a complete goal of our objective because we are limited financially. So we establish a strategy whereby that each member in each mission should contribute a sum of just €5 per month so that we collect these funds to enable us to accomplish our own objectives and to accomplish most of these visions I've tabled before you people, because they are really lucrative projects. We have been seeing evidences at hand.
Absolutely. In sum, what we are saying, ladies and gentlemen, the Ambazonian people, those who are listening to us tonight, what we are saying is that the AGOVC HHS department, we've rolled out a number of very, very great projects for 2024. And our main populations that we're looking at are number one, prisoners of war, number two, internally displaced persons within Ambazonia, and number three, refugees. We consider people who are in La République du Cameroun as Ambazonian refugees because that's another country. And we consider Ambazonians who are in Nigeria, Ghana, or the other places as refugees as well. So we wrote out a number of projects. We had recipients this year alone, we are empowering 12 Ambazonians, either IDPs, refugees, with seed capital to start small businesses. Because there is great magic in economic empowerment. So we started that last year and we're getting into it heavily this year. And we have somebody who has, won the first, seed capital for the year. Finances are hard to come by. So we're appealing to the Ambazonian people, those who want to chip in a thing for this project. There is a lady in Akwa Ibom who is starting a little soap factory. It is doing amazing. We're going to be bringing videos of what is happening there to you guys. But we also have internally displaced persons as well that we want to reach out to. Remember, we have 12 people that we want to empower this year. And we've started with only one. So we need funding. Ambazonians, we need funding. We know how to identify these people. We know how to go through projects. We know what projects are, easily accomplished successfully. So we are appealing on the public. Ambazonians, reach out to us and partner with us on this specific project. So apart from economic empowerment, we also have, diseases. Our prisoners of war get sick every now and then. We have to reach out to them. We have to feed them and stuff like that. So the weight on the department is unbearable. So we are appealing, whereby this notice appealing to the public. Our projects are really ambitious. We're calling on the public to help us. This year, from January to March, we trained 5 Ambazonians in the field of cybersecurity. Every year, quarterly, we train a specific number. Those who win the scholarships, we train them on cybersecurity by institutes based here in the United States. We train them, they can get that knowledge to better themselves and stuff like that. So currently there are 3 who are undergoing training that is going to be ending in July. And then from August to sometime around August, October, November, around December, from August to end of this year, we're going to have another 5 that will be training to study cybersecurity in the United States. Apart from that, we also partner with other institutes in the United States to train people on IT to become what we call multi-platform system administrators. IT is the way to go for a brand new developed Ambazonia in the future. So we are beginning that, the Bible says that despise not little beginnings. So these little bit beginnings, we are beginning these little beginnings, and we're calling on the public, please partner with us. Let's reach out to the Ambazonian people that are those who are fortunate, IDPs, refugees. Myself, I'm a refugee, right? So let's, join hands together and help these populations. Before we go, do you have one last word, Mr. Niba?
Yeah, actually, just as you said, that we need the support of the entire Ambazonian community to enable us to realize this huge objective. So we are pleading upon the head of the various missions across the world, Ambazonian Governing Council's missions. Please try to implement these policies and strategies in your various mission and help us to sensitize your people so that we'll be able to get this €5 per person for each month. Please, we are pleading, because you are to carry on this objective down to your group to sensitize them so that we will be able to meet this huge objective. Just as the secretary explained, we have a lot of huge projects, but our coffers are empty. So we are expecting the support also from the various head of missions. Please sensitize your mission, please.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. William Nibar. That was Mr. William Nibar and myself. He's with the German mission, and myself, Akosin Akotar, the Secretary for Human Rights and Humanitarian Services of the Ambazonian Governing Council. Today we have chronicled all the human rights violations that La République du Cameroun occupation forces perpetrated in Ambazonia in the months of February and in the month of March. Remember, late January, we did chronicle those for the month of January. We skipped the month of March, of February. And so for the month of February and March, we're putting those together. All of you heard the harrowing tales of war crimes that Cameroon is currently committing in Ambazonia. And we are saying that we have to catalog and archive all of these things. And the Ambazonia Governing Council is the only department that has that one big black book of Cameroon's crimes. And we have it cataloged in our website, www.agovc.org, www.agovc.org. If you go to our website, one of the folders is War Crimes Catalog. You click there, you get the war crimes from 2016 right up to 2024, and it's a work in progress. There are lots of things that we're going to do better there, but for right now, we are just like dumping all of that material in there. And, Cameroon did not start committing war crimes only in 2016. We have to go way back down the line, back until 1961, when they rolled out their tanks and colonial administrators across international borders and have effectively colonized Ambazonia to this day. So we've talked about that, we've chronicled that, and then we also today talked about the different projects that we have, the HHS Department of the Ambazonia Governing Council has for our IDPs, our refugees, and our POWs. Thank you guys for watching. Take the rendezvous for next time. I think either April ending or May ending, we're going to be coming back based on what we have, what we would have achieved, the number of crimes of Cameroon that we would have cataloged. We'll be coming back to expose that, to name and shame. The day will name and shame La République du Cameroun. Thanks again, Mr. William Niba, for joining us in this edition. Next time, we're going to make it interactive, where we'll open the lines for the public to call and give their contribution. Take the rendezvous for next time. Bye for now.
Okay.
Welcome to ACN.